in today's day and age, there is a surprising lot of information, but very less wisdom. The ability to glean information and use them in the right way at the right time. Now that is important.
Our today's guest is a visionary in learning and development industry. He believes in sharing knowledge and affirms that wisdom is more important than information. I'm sure you will like today's episode and has a lot to take away from today's insightful conversations with Satyam Sen Gupta. Hi, this is Aljira Pereira from Era Inspirations. And if you like today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Satyam Sen Gupta. He is a seasoned hotelier, he's a certified trainer, certified facilitator, and an author. I'm honored to invite Satyam Sen Gupta on our podcast today by Era Inspirations. Welcome on our podcast, Satyam.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. It's quite exciting to be talking about learning and development and the journey that I've taken. So yes, thank you.
So, to begin with, what was that moment that you realized that learning and development is for you?
Well, there was a time in my life when I was working. I was not in learning and development. I was in hotel operations, more precisely food and beverage. And it was very interesting, and I was quite immersed in it, meaning that I liked what I did. Uh, an opportunity came, like in many hotels you have, which was called a pre-opening. A pre-opening is basically when you open something new as a part of the service or facility of the hotel. Usually, it may be a restaurant, or it may be maybe a set of rooms, or in some cases, it might be the entire new hotel itself. So for me, this was, I think, early 2000s when I had done my first pre-opening. And I had been working in the food and beverage for a couple of years at that time. And I thought that I knew all there was to know about food and beverages and operations. During pre-opening, what happened was we had a lot of people who joined us. And when I mean people, I mean team members and colleagues who were new, who were basically coming in and who were basically learning something. So there used to be these things in pre-opening where you would not exactly get the kind of output or productivity that you were expecting. And this caused a little bit of stress because we were thinking that we've been probably hiring the right people, going to the right places in terms of uh, hotel management colleges and all that. So why are they not able to do some of the things which should be considered basics? So that's when I realized that that constant learning and development, training, being a part of training, that is very important because that is how people actually develop, learn, acquire new skills, and get reskilled. So I would say, to answer your question, it was during my pre-opening stage that I realized how important structured learning development is, and training inputs are for people who are new, as well as people who probably have worked with you and have come in to assist you or help you with the pre-opening.
That's very interesting. And you're right, whatever we study in the hospitality colleges, that is not actually applicable in the practical world. There is a lot more that we still have to understand. I realized this even when I was a pre-opening staff in one of the properties back then. I realized that all those students who came with their industry, I mean, hospitality experience, but they couldn't cope up with the operations because they didn't have the practical knowledge. So I agree with
Correct.
you totally. Yeah.
Correct. So
So
yes, it's very
in
similar
this
experience.
So in this fast-paced environment, we actually require a lot of time to plan structured interviews, structured trainings. How do you cope up with that?
So what you're asking is basically that in a fast-paced environment where there are operational exigencies and you do not have time for, let's say, traditional structured interviews, how do you cope up with that?
Yes,
Well, I
that's
think there are two inputs that I would like to make. One is, of course, seeing it from a point of view of us, of me especially, who comes from a little different generation, probably not the Generation Z. And so the thing is that we tend to think, and sometimes not correctly, that people, the young generation, requires structured, formal, traditional kind of classroom settings. In my opinion, and I've realized that this is not true anymore. People learn all the while, they learn through a lot of mediums. There are various areas of self learning, there's gamification. People learn in short bursts, and they don't really have to, kind of be gathered together in a structured way to form learning. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is, I guess, that structured learning obviously is important, but probably it has had its day. So, because a lot of learning now is unstructured, spontaneous, bite-sized, small, happens at times when traditional training or teaching is probably not does not happen. So that is number one. So about structured learning. The second thing about structured learning and giving traditional inputs is the fact that you do not you have a lot of technology nowadays to make this structured learning unstructured, or if I can use a better word, maybe the structured learning innovative. So, to maybe all the people who are probably breaking their heads thinking that how do I gather people, do I get people in a group, and how do I train them? My suggestion would be that don't really bother so much with that. Try to see what you can harness from technology. Try to understand the trainees and the people that you are training, and you will see that sometimes you will be probably being as effective a trainer with your training inputs with some radical, innovative, unstructured learning rather than always putting your all your eggs in the basket of structured learnings, which may not always be possible because, as you said, the hotel industry is very rapidly changing, developing, and of course, exigencies of operations always exist. I think it's time trainers saw this through a different viewpoint and tried to swim with the current, go with the flow, and integrate unstructured learning, yet effective learning, or unstructured inputs along in their trainings.
amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing in-depth information about structural training, and it is really helpful. I'm sure many of our viewers are able to relate it and also able to understand how it works. Thank you. So to move forward, would you like to share any example that you have example of a training program that you have implemented and it has turned very successful?
Over the course of years, I have implemented a number of programs which have been successful. However, let me define success with trainers out here. If you're looking at something like a cyber investment, that you invest something and within the next 2 or 3 months, it really skyrockets and you then walk out with the gains. Unfortunately, as we all know, training is not like that, right? In fact, it is still difficult to actually prove a direct lever of training, which results into, of course, an immediate output. Mostly, training is a complex thing in which people imbibe a knowledge. They take these inputs, they work the inputs on themselves, and then they develop these skills. So sometimes gains and advantages or some whatever what you said from training, that may not happen immediately. However, one should not be discouraged that your training is probably not working or is not successful. And sometimes it's also the trainer, it's good to turn a deaf ear to some people who are probably pressuring you to get immediate results. All trainings Of course, there are exceptions. All trainings do not give you immediate results. Yeah, okay. So, to come back to your original question, there was this training which we are doing at uh, our atmosphere core. I think this is a great initiative, and it is the ACDP. So, in which we try to manage talent and make sure that the pipeline for people being ready for new openings, new challenges, new positions is always ready. So I think ACDP is a very structured program. It is done with a lot of thought and clarity. It has been rolled out with a lot of passion. There are certain things in the ACDP in the inputs which have been, a lot of thought has gone to it, and overall it's a very robust program. And it is also successful because I think the traction towards the resorts, seeing how important this training program is also high, because most of the resorts have realized what the fruit that this ACTP program can bear in terms of managing their talent, in terms of developing their talent. And therefore, a lot of training managers, as well as general managers, as well as operational managers, have taken this program and really driven it so that we have now a sustainable team of people who are at least can be groomed for the next level, so that we are ready when we come up with this thing. So this is a program which is, in my opinion, we have a winner on our hands. If we continue with the same focus, dedication, and same kind of walk down this path with this of ACDP, we will be able to make this program very successful. So immediate gains, yes, there has been a lot of excitement among the colleagues who know that this is a career path development program, and they are interested in knowing that they are part of the inner circle or chosen group who is going to get some inputs. And in the future, we would have probably created within the company really great candidates who are prepared, ready, and able to take up positions in the future. So this program, again, to repeat myself, I think is a great program that we have launched, and I think it has already started showing the first sprouts of being a successful program. And in the future, I'm definitely sure that it will blossom into one of the probably a best training program or a best practice that we have developed at the atmosphere core.
Mhm. Amazing. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the fact that you have mentioned about the success in learning and development. I think many of us wanted the clarity on that. Many people look at it in such a way that if the trainer is, they blame it on trainer, the trainer is not teaching it right. And that's why the department is suffering, and that's why the company or organization is suffering. So I'm glad that you highlighted that point, and thank you for that. And
Yes, and I would say there are many reasons why a training is successful or a training is not. And of course, the trainer and the inputs and the content make a lot of difference also. But it's always not just only the trainer or the content which is solely responsible for the level of success training program will reach.
that's right, that's right. And also, you have answered my another question. I wanted to ask you, like, how do you customize or how do you tailor make the trainings with regards to in terms of respective departments? So the ACDP structure in the atmosphere core, which you gave the example of, I assume that caters to respective departments because the people from respective department becomes the trainer in this, right?
That is correct. However, I would like to add that the ACTP does make individual TNAs or training need analysis for what the people require vis-a-vis also what the company requires. And to answer in a in very brief, I think a lot of talking and a lot of understanding of what other departments do and what they really feel important is important for a learning and development manager or a specialist. So you need to know your operations, you need to understand the business, and you do need to understand people as well as supervisors' expectations and aspirations. So if you basically have these three things in your kitty, that is business acumen, understanding what people need, and operational or strategic alignment of the business demands and wants, you will probably be able to, without much difficulty, you would be able to pinpoint the exact training that departments, supervisors, and individuals would prefer, and then accordingly you create or co-create, collaborate together and bring this. So it's always a lot of collaboration with the end user or the end custom audience customer in this case, which helps you to create great and winning training programs.
That brings to my next question. When you said audience customization, you deal with multicultural audiences during your trainings. How do you customize, or how do you cater to each of them? Because some of them will learn fast, some of them will not learn at all. So how do you cater this?
Yes. So there is two aspects, I think, to your question. One is a multicultural audience in which people have different cultural backgrounds and different demographics. And there is, of course, I think you adhere to something in the question of being able to grasp something, the
Yeah.
question of being quick or being intelligent. While these are two separate things, as trainers, we try to address both. So when you have people from multicultural background, you try to address things which are relevant and which are kind of understood by the entire audience, and you do not make very specific inputs or very esoteric or inputs which will be only understood by a particular section of the audience. This covers things like body language, trivia, questions, quizzes, and even to some extent grooming of the trainer and the setup of this thing. Small things matter. For example, if you're having a training which has some sort of you know refreshment and snacks, and if you have a multicultural audience, maybe that's something that you would need to keep in mind. If you're working with an audience who has some social or religious engagement which might happen during the training, you need to keep that in mind. Your questions, your examples, the stories and the anecdotes that you will say to clarify or highlight your training, they all have to be suited so that people understand that and it's not lost on them. With reference to how people learn, there are various ways people learn. One of the simplest things that we trainers know is that people learn visually, through their ears and through by feeling. And there are different kind of learners, which is primarily called the VAK learners. So when you create a content and when you're kind of designing a content, instructional design teaches us that you make sure that your content uh, has aspects of all these three things. So there is aspects which appeals or which is draws a visual learner closer, or there are aspects which helps an auditory learner maybe to understand better. And of course, there are also aspects which people who are more kinesthetic, them to learn better. Now, this is just one part of the many things that you do. So there are various small tools and things that a trainer has in which he can actually ensure that everyone is on the same level. I think a strong tool is asking questions and checking for understanding. So a trainer has to be very clear on what his end objective, that is, what shall be achieved at the end of the training. It's not just a book reading so that people just should go away hearing something and maybe not understanding. It's a training. So trainers should always start with an objective. So if you have an objective in mind, that at the end of the session people need to understand and know these things of the training, then accordingly, if you work backwards, you will create inputs which are aligned to that and ensure that that common ground of understanding is covered for everybody. And for that, as I said, you can use various tools as like questioning technique, storytelling, activities, visual cues, etc., etc.
That's right. When you said it's not just book reading, I just remembered my childhood incident that our school teachers used to just come and just read the book, and then they used to say the syllabus is over. This is how we were taught in the school back then. So I
Yes,
understand
I think we
learning.
all have had this experience of going to school where a lot of lectures were just the glorified version of book reading.
Yeah, that's right. So how do you gauge the ROI, that is return on investment of your training?
If you talk about return on investment, which is a very big thing that every trainer faces, so we working in corporate, working for somebody like let's say a company or something, we do not get haunted by this question very much. But ROI is very key for any entrepreneurial trainer, a trainer who goes out into the market and goes to party the vendors and say that this is what I bring to the table. This is what I want to do. So, in order to understand return of investment, there are certain things that as a trainer you need to be clear on. First of all, you need to understand that what is expected by the sponsor of this trainer. So when I mean the sponsor of the trainer, I mean the person is doing it. In our case, it may be the HOD, or it may be the operational manager, or it can also be your corporate head or your general manager who says that I want this training to be done. I think a dialogue needs to happen there to understand that, okay, what I understand that you want this to happen, but what are your expectations? What do you want people to learn? Right. And then again, if possible, that dialogue has to be further drilled down to the granular level of asking that. So, what do you expect people to know, people to be able to do? What behaviors or behavioral change do you expect to see on the, let's say, the shop floor or maybe at work? So, if once these kind of things are clear, then you will basically know that what the end result or what the destination is sought by the sponsor of the program, the person who asked you to do a program. So in that case, if you know that if you know the ROI of what these people are saying, then what you do is then you create a program which delivers on those kind of things, right? It delivers on the productivity that has been discussed and agreed upon. And following that, I think as trainers, it's also important to maintain a little kind of journey plan ahead to say that what have been the gains. And you should do that as a trainer because sometimes it is missed out by the operational manager. So you should be able to show and point out a little bit of self-marketing that, okay, after this, this has been achieved. At this point, we have done this inputs and this milestone has been achieved. So for a trainer to create a kind of dashboard to understand the matrices that have been affected is very important. So if you know these kind of tools, then you will be able to not only understand and clarify the understanding of what is required, but you will also be able to show a kind of gains that your program or your inputs have been able to capture post the training. And then when you go back to the sponsor and present these and say that what it has achieved, then there's a clear connection of ROI and why the training was worth it. Besides that, of course, there is the Kirkpatrick model in which you should also make sure that your training is exciting and your training has certified people on a certain level of skills.
Perfect. That gives me the detailed understanding about how return on investment in learning and development works. This was my question since I think many years, and I got the perfect solution for this now.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Would you like to share some challenges that you have faced across, because you have decades of experience in learning and development, and you would have come across some challenging situations, of course. Would you like to share that?
Well, there are situations which does not go as per what you want, and then you have in your mind you have an end result that you always foresee. Whenever we do something, we always foresee a kind of result that we expect, whether it's a conversation or whether it's a journey or whether it's any task. We have in our mind an ideal scenario of what we will be able to achieve or do at the end of this thing. So when this does not match to the reality, then it kind of upsets us, frustrates us. We even give it negative terms like, "Oh, that was a failure, and that was a miscarriage of my abilities and my efforts," and things like that. However, it's to say the same, it's not really that, because in reality, there will be a lot of changes in the environment where you are doing something, or putting your efforts into something, and obviously these things will affect your end result. It will. So I think that is very important to say, that it's these challenges are just basically ways of not doing something. You learn the ways of not doing something. Like, for example, I think there was a story about Graham Bell, who, I think, before inventing the telephone, he said that I have not failed X number of times, which is what I think 105 or 107, whatever. I have not failed 105 times. I've just discovered 105 ways of how not to make this. So it's also the way you look at it. So everything is learning. Yes, there are challenges, but if you think that, okay, this is a challenge, this is something to be cured, this is something to be fixed, then I think you kind of put the onus into an external loci, saying that, okay, this is not my fault, but this happened because of this thing did not happen. This happened because of, let's say, COVID, or this happened because of, let's say, the guest. This happened because of somebody's personality or ego and things like that. On the other hand, you should look at it and say, okay, what could I have done differently? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing you control. What could I have done differently so that I could have got a different result, or the outcome? And then you probably would be asking more questions, and you'll be more introspecting and seeing that where you might have done things differently, or where you might have gone a little off track, and what change of tack that you can do for the next time, so that you reach uh, your aspired goal, or aspired this thing. So in terms of challenges, to answer your question, there has been challenges uh, in almost many ways. There have been challenges of budgets sometimes. There have been challenges of uh, you know having the right kind of agreement, or having the right kind of engagement with some of the sponsors and leaders. There also have been challenge frequently about getting enough number of people, or maybe doing structured training programs and things like that. However, these challenges remain a challenge or a problem only if you think they are. If you look at innovative ways or different ways of solving it, then very soon you understand that this is the way that we should be doing things, because this is the way it works. Because you cannot use the same tool to kind of for every situation. So I think my what I'm trying to say here, that you will have challenges, but don't look at them as problems. Look at them as opportunities where you can do things differently, and maybe you would probably be credited with discovering an innovative way, or solving something, or bringing a solution uh, in your domain of learning and development and training.
Awesome. That's interesting. And how do you keep yourself updated in this fast developing industry?
The truth is, nothing structured. That I guess I lack that the discipline of saying that, okay, I will structure. I'll go for a structured thing and update myself. But I'm generally by nature curious. I tend to look, read, feel, experience a lot of things which is within the domain, and which is also outside the domain. So whether it's reading something up on the net, or whether it's just attending a cooking class or things like that, I think a lot of the things that I do helps me to keep updated. But I think primarily I keep myself updated by using, like most people, a lot of the internet. There are sites which actually have a glut of information. So you should be very careful about what information that you choose, because in today's day and age, there is a surprising lot of information, but very less wisdom. The ability to glean information and use them in the right way at the right time. Now that is important. Information is available to everybody, because we live in a time where information is always on overdrive. But I think some of the things that you need to also understand is that you have to look at various sources. You have to constantly check, recheck, and questions the things that you are doing or you were doing, right? Things, the obsolescence of processes or technology is very fast. You should be updated with that. And of course, you should also sometimes give up some of your thoughts or viewpoints you had, some of the silos you had in your mind about certain things, and relearn certain things. So, a lot of this doesn't only come from the outside, just reading and watching and listening and listening, but a lot of this also comes from uh, careful introspection, which means when you probably cut yourself off from any sort of stimuli, including books, music, TV, internet, and all that, and you probably think and reflect. And sometimes you will come up with an answer which was eluding you. And that would probably help you update your way of doing certain things. So I think it's a bit of both. You need to be very much in touch with the outside world, and I think as trainers or maybe just as individuals, you also need to be in touch with yourself, because at the end of the day, it's you who would be affected by any kind of change. So you better bounce it off yourself before you just blindly accept something that you have heard, read, or have been told by someone.
This is insightful, Satyam. Really, I never imagined that this episode will give me so much of insights about learning and development. And apart from that, as a person as well, it's a lot interesting. From
Thank
the
you. Thank you.
from the conversation that we had so far, I realized that learning and development is a department where you need to have patience, where you need to keep yourself constantly learning. And what are the other attributes you would like to add?
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Patience is very important. You need to be constantly learning is also important. I think I mentioned something in my last answer. You need to have a curious mind, right? You need to have this question at the back of your mind saying, what if and why nots? So not saying you have to go all out iconoclastic or very rebellious, but it's definitely good to challenge accepted norms and things once in a while, because that's the way you see a difference or changes happen. Besides that, you need to be very confident about your abilities. Of course, when you're speaking to people, so you must overcome that fright or shyness you have to engage with people, because this is all about engaging with people. You must be honest and transparent. A lot of trainers try to put a persona which they want people to see and say that, oh, he is like this, he is something like this. That persona can be strict or something unapproachable, or maybe something no nonsense kind of persona. I, for one, I think that a trainer should be as transparent and honest as the trainee sitting across. Why am I saying trainees are honest? Of course, they're honest because they are coming to you saying that I don't know this, teach me this. So I guess somewhere the trainer also shares that, okay, I'm going to teach you what I know, but then please understand that there is maybe much more to know. So there is that kind of honesty a trainer should exude, that yes, I'm going to teach or train you something that I know, but please do understand that probably going down the line, you will take my learning and you will make it into something better. You will discover something more. So that is the kind of fervor that you should always give off, so that people are curious to walk on this journey. I mean, you should not come in by saying that here I'm going to teach you everything that you have to know about certain things, because that, as we know, is not possible. Things are constantly uh, developing, expanding, constantly realities are being changed. So that's the third thing. Empathy is also important. If you do not understand how your trainees are feeling, it will be difficult for you to help them. So empathize with your trainees. And again, if you are training a multicultural this thing, please take time to know people. And and finally, I think that it is important for a trainer to uh, do some getting some feedback, get some feedback from people, feedback which can be not only from the sponsors or people who the trainer hierarchically reports to, but can be feedback from anybody. Be open to feedback, because feedback often doesn't tell what's a trainee's feedback often doesn't tell the trainer what's wrong with the trainer. I think most of the trainees' feedback tells the trainer what they want to learn. There's a difference in that. And when someone's telling me how and what they want to learn, I don't think that is incorrect in any way. So he might say that, I did not like this training because all you were doing was giving a lecture, but he's actually not saying that your lecture is something which I did not like and you're not good at giving a lecture. I think the point is more than that. I think the point is saying that I want to learn something which is not in a particular way. So when you are going to teach me, and when I am the important, I am important, and I am the focus, then I think you should use a different tack or a different technique. So feedback is a lot about that, rather than telling you where you can be better. So I think every feedback is constructive. So these are some of the attributes a trainer should have. Of course, people have their own personalities, and depending on the personality, they will have one or two stellar attributes, which they should definitely always bring to the fore and leverage it while being a great trainer.
I totally agree with you when you said that one has to open up and say that what he or she wants to learn, rather than the learning and development trainer himself teaching randomly any kind of topic. Same applies in our school lives as well. When we are in school, we learn different subjects, different streams. However, we may not be good at it at all. So similarly, when we apply the same in our jobs respectively, we may not be good at all the functions of the respective department. So we need to work on certain areas where we need to focus more. And
True.
when a particular employee walks up to the trainer and says that I want to work on this, that's where the learning and development actually happens. I think.
True. True. People should have their own choice of learning the way they want to. At one time, there was a time when people thought that, to really learn to cook, you need to take a course or learn under some mentor, which might be even somebody in your family or somebody that you know. But today, you have a lot of really well-established cooks who just say that I've learned everything of YouTube.
Yeah.
So, in a way, I'm sure that is possible. I mean, maybe we didn't realize that way back, but this medium of videos has made it possible that people can learn and imbibe skills just through a different medium, which is not actually the practical medium as thought to be. So, yes, training, trainers, trainees are all going changes. And as we integrate ourselves more with technology and the way we live, I think how we learn and how we see the world also is changed.
Perfect. And before I could go to my last two questions, I would like to understand from your perception, do you think learning and development training or a trainer need to have a quality from inbuilt, or it can be learned later in the years? Is it a skill, or is it inbuilt skill? Skill that can be learned?
Now, I really think that there is something called talent, right? And there are some people who are born with a gift or the gifted. Now, when we see gifted people or people born with a gift, okay, it's very clear that these people are really, really talented. But then this of the pie of the entire humanity, this is a very, 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 very thin hairline, this thing. Really, really talented people. So I'm going to go with that only some people are really born talented, really born with greatness. But most of us have greatness trust in them, as Shakespeare would say. So besides that sliver of people who have an amazing extreme talent which just bursts out and just showcases itself. without, let's say, formal training or formal education or things like that. Most of us can reach anywhere we want to through a lot of practice, to focus and hard work. Okay. So yes, it is true that you do not need a really inborn thing to be a great trader, right? Okay. You might be born with all the other faculties which are like average in terms of communication or presence of mind, intelligence, or whatever. But you can, we can work on these things. We can work on our personality, our faculties, to practice, to skill development, and we can definitely become very good at what we are. Sometimes we become really good at what we are, and sometimes we find a niche which people accept, right? So we accept that, okay, this person is like this. So I would probably agree more that it is possible to become a good trainer, even though there are some people born with some sort of talent. There may be some people born with great oratory skills, or there may be some people born with amazing convincing power, all of which can be used in, let's say, training, for example. But for most of us who wants to walk down this line, they should not think that their passport requires a stamp of a great talent just to make this journey. You don't. You can just practice, practice, practice until it becomes your second nature.
Right. Totally agree with you. And Satyam, you as a person, what is that one change, positive change you would like to see in this learning and development industry?
I think that would be very easy. I think learning and development industry, I would like to see. This is a kind of a big picture kind of thing. I am not talking about any kind of technology, or I'm not talking about any kind of innovation. I would like to see learning and development have attraction from the self, right? For whatever reason, even from education onwards, uh, the learning is a means to an end. So studying, learning is only the means to an end. If I study hard, I will, or maybe if I do well, or if I'm successful, I'll be able to obtain this much amount of marks, which will open up these gateways in my life. Okay, it'll promise me a better life, a more, a cushy, comfortable job, and things like that. But the real seekers of knowledge are probably not really looking for that. They're not looking for these material things as to why they should invest in learning. So if you ask me, in an ideal situation, what I would like to see, I think I would really like to see in an ideal situation is that everyone has this thirst for learning, just learning to know more, be better, interact better with the universe, nature, people, etc., etc. That way, rather than like most of us do, treating learning to a means to an end and never revisiting it once that means is achieved. So maybe one day we will have people who wants to learn because and will continue to learn because they really like or value learning and development. And Alvira, I think this is a lot about culture, not just culture at the corporate level, but culture also in your household, where you're brought up, your parents, your society, your familial ties. All these kind of things affect a person's attitudes towards knowing, learning, and curiosity, and valuing the sense of why wisdom is more important than information. So I think there's a mad rush to chase information, but the road to wisdom has very less traffic.
Very true. Yes. And what is that last message you would like to give to our audience today?
Well, if you are listening to us today, thank you for listening to us. I hope I was able to uh, maybe strike one chord within you, which is probably enough. So Message is, I don't know, not very, I don't have a real kind of follow me or my mantra kind of this thing, but I would just like to say that continue learning. Learning is something which will definitely pay you returns. Don't look at learnings as a means to an end. Look at learning as a bigger picture, which will somewhere somehow help you as a person. And I think also, if you have a lot of learning, a lot of information and wisdom within you, don't take it to the grave, to the end. Plant a tree, plant a seed of learning, teach somebody, change something, do something that you probably can. So don't keep what you know or what you have learned or what you have kind of developed or theorized based on your life experiences, and don't let that be archived with you and then just be the end of it. So if everyone listening to me, if you are constantly learning, then I guess it's high time you also should think that you should be constantly teaching also. And if you are, very good. Go on, take that journey.
Perfect. This was extremely humble kind of a message that you have given to our audiences. And of course, the amount of information that you have shared is that will certainly help each of us to, in some or the other way, to implement and to grow as well. And Ira Inspirations is really, really thankful to have you on our podcast.
Thank you. It's been absolutely a pleasure, Elvira, talking to you. I thought that this was a very interesting subject to do a podcast on. And also, the questions that you've asked is very pertinent, very relevant, and very deep. And I'm glad that I could share maybe some of my worldview or my experiences of what I feel, and it was helpful. So I myself have been very blessed and very grateful to be on this. And once again, I thank you for you know giving me this opportunity to share what I feel. Thank you once again, Elvira.
Welcome.